kind of want to speak about the season, not really the season, but your thoughts beyond the obvious. Where you look at the Premier League, guys. Sorry, let me remove this comment. Big up, love Arsenal, hate the ops. 38 games played, 20 wins, 14 draws, 4 losses, 72 points. Second place, obviously, 69 goals scored, 34 conceded, plus 35 goal difference. Based on that, yeah, where do you think the season was won and lost in them 38 games?
From day one. From day one, as far as concerned, we from the first game of the season, we didn't look at it. You know, it's the first game of the season was a sign of things to come in terms of like the Wolves match. We won, but we got ourselves the line, and then we thought we'd try to turn a corner when we beat Aston Villa, and then the Brighton game was again brought us back down to earth, and then I think we thought we had something good going when we beat Spurs, because you know that's still a hard game, away game, and then the Man City result was a really, really good performance, but there was in the end we shot ourselves in the foot, and then it became clear to me Liverpool just kept on winning, and they came out the traps pretty quickly, and it was a case of we never really touched Liverpool, we never really laid a glove on Liverpool, and I think when it became apparent to me that we weren't going to win the league was December. Basically 2 games. Fulham away, when Liverpool, the Merseyside derby was called off because of the prevailing winds, and we couldn't get over the line. So basically, Fulham away, Fulham scored a great goal. We got the equaliser, but we couldn't beat Fulham. And then the week afterwards is where I think most Arsenal fans, I think 90% of Arsenal fans knew the game was up, was Everton at home. And it coincided with Liverpool playing Fulham at Anfield. Liverpool had a player set off, Andy Robertson. They were down to 10 men. Fulham were 2-1 during that game. Liverpool got the equaliser. Meanwhile, at the Emirates, we played Everton, who were basically a replica of ourselves, i.e. set-piece Everton. You know, they're defending for their lives. They stretched us in a counter-attack. We just couldn't go over the line. And that was it. It was over as far as I'm concerned. Don't get me wrong. We won every game after that. We beat Crystal Palace 5-1, beat Ipswich 1-0, beat Brentford 3-1 away. But Liverpool kept winning, and it was always a case where Liverpool were always 6 or 7 points ahead of us. It was just when Liverpool dropped points, we just couldn't capitalise. Brighton away, New Year's Day again, we went ahead. They got a goal from something very a new
both Brighton games.
Really? New decision. But let's not forget, we had an odd penalty decision in our favour against West Ham away. So it was a case of those dropping these points. Aston Villa again dropping points.
Unacceptable. That 2 goals up. That's the worst.
And the final nail in the coffin was West Ham at home. That was when it was undoubted we weren't going to win the league. When we lost to West Ham, we weren't going to win the league. Yeah, we weren't losing as many games, but we were dropping so many points. But I think the kind of Armageddon moment was Everton at home. That was it. December the 15th was the day when Arsenal lost the league.
Where you at?
No, Kenny, the Aston Villa at home 2-2. And then we went to Wolves 1-1-0, but it weren't really convincing. And then we beat Man City 5-1. And I thought, if we're going to kick on, this is the time. This is the time to kick on. And then we put in that horrendous effort in the Carabao Cup against Newcastle 2-0. We beat Leicester, but it weren't convincing. We beat Leicester away 2-0. It wasn't convincing. And then on the back of that, you could see there was cracks. You could see there was signs of players not really kind of knowing what system to play. They looked lost. And then that all came to show when we played West Ham at home and we lost 1-0. And that West Ham at home when we lost 1-0, to me, was the really icing on the cake of the season. And then we drew 0-0 Nottingham Forest. Again, lacklustre performance. But I'll go back to when we played Southampton at home. The Everton at home was absolutely abysmal. And there was lots and lots of displays of that. There was lots and lots of games where we was playing like that. When we played Leicester at home, We wasn't good. That could have easily ended up, going.
Yeah, I'm sure Southampton and Leicester were like back to back.
Yeah, Southampton and Leicester, both games weren't really convincing at home. We struggled in a lot of areas. They was disappointed that they never came back with anything. And we drew 1-1 Old Trafford against Man United, and I'm thinking, okay, that's you'll always, no matter how bad Man United are, they're our rivals. You always go to Old Trafford thinking any result's a good result. And yeah, we just were struggling. We were just struggling. Everton, then we played Everton away 1-1, and then the draws kept rolling in. Couldn't get over the line. I mean, I think there was a stat, wasn't it? None of our players have scored more than 10 goals.
Yeah, I think we got 9.
All our players.
19, 23, 24, something like that.
None of our players have scored over 10 goals in a season, which, when you think about it, is absolutely diabolical.
There's been injuries, but it's still horrible.
And I saw it in the comments there. The season was lost in the summer, and I agree with that. I totally agree with that. When we didn't do the right thing, we needed an out-and-out striker, and we still do. We need an out-and-out number 9. None of this inverting, none of this dropping false 9, none of this can play on the left, none of this can play on the right. We need an out-and-out number 9, horrible, nasty striker. That's what we need, and that's what Arsenal was built on. And we haven't got that, and we need it. We don't need any projects. That's what we need.
I think you're not right, man. I wish you were wrong, dude.
And the season shows that. Now, people are going to say, well, how can you blame the manager? Well, he's been pretty much in charge of all the transfers. Him and Edu was given the reins. They was given the freedom, and it was their decision and his decision who he wanted. And that's a fact, pure and simple. And he didn't do the right thing, and it was frustrating. And as the season went on, it just shows how we've struggled. And let's be honest, the football this season has not been enjoyable. I can name 4, maybe 5 games where I've come out of there absolutely buzzing. Other than that, it's been diabolical.
I don't think we've evolved, man. Unfortunately, like I said, if we want to be this team that keeps having years where we're semi-finals and we're flirting, then we've got enough. If we want to go to the next level, it's like what DJB said there. We need a 9. We need more depth. I feel like it's a mixture of things. There's been games where we've dropped points where our players look out of steam. I think there's been games where the manager showed an inability to be flexible in games. I just think it's a mixture of things, man. I think we've dropped too many points from winning positions. Obviously, when they're going and reviewing the games, they're going to look at the 4 losses, and all of them were kind of diabolical in the sense that we looked out of steam. But the draws, man, I know people are going to be silly in the chat. Of course, I'm not asking us to win every game, but 14 draws, even if that was half, what conversations are we having? So we haven't evolved tactically. I still think if we want to be a good team, we've got enough, but you need to be able to answer questions. I've got all the time in the world for Trossard and Martinelli as squad players, but you don't know what you're getting with them. Saka is the only killer we've got that's going to get the numbers. And ironically, Kai Havertz has like 9 goals. If Kai Havertz is one of your more consistent and clinical strikers, then pick him up. But that's probably damning on the club. And it does go to January. You do look at the summer. You do look at January. You do look at all the things we've discussed in this opening 38 minutes, not 38 games. I just feel it's been a mixture of stuff, and it's just ultimately another year where we ain't got nothing to celebrate. And I feel sorry for the players, if I'm honest. I think they've showed a lot of adversity. I can criticize them. Obviously, they're the ones playing, but I feel sorry for them, because if we're feeling like this in January, I wonder what they are. And I wouldn't say I feel sorry for Arteta, because you took the job, but those above you, like, what is the remit for the gaffer then? Because you can't want them to seriously get over the line, because we had injuries. We look spent. In hindsight now, just thinking about it, it looked like any sort of juice and intensity we had, it went all into the 2 games against Real Madrid, and we all know how that panned out. Then you look at the Bayern Munich game 2 seasons ago now, where they said we needed X factor, and we've gone into the PSG game in the second leg. I think we tried, but it did. I couldn't help but feel, you know what? Us trying is just them being basically competent, and it just comes down to needing players with stardust. And I keep saying on my streams that if nothing changes, nothing changes. We knew all the issues we've seen this season, they were there last year. They were there going into the summer. And if we don't change it, nothing's gonna happen, man. So it's pretty disappointing. And if anyone doesn't know, obviously we ended the season 10 points behind Liverpool, 3 points ahead of City, 5 points ahead of Chelsea, 32 ahead of United. We know where they're at. And although Spurs won a trophy, we're 36 points ahead of them. I wouldn't trade places with them, but I would love some silverware. I did want to ask you lot then, with the season wrapped up, yeah, first thing, who would you give your player of the season to, you guys?
Goalkeeper. I'm giving it to Raya. Raya's been our most consistent performer. You look at the games, the saves he's made, not just domestically but in Europe as well. The Man United game, we should have been. They should have won the game by a street.
And he made a mistake in that game.
Yeah,
did well.
He made some spectacular saves. The thing about it is that I ain't got no problem with goalkeeper making mistakes, especially when he's asked to be the sweeper keeper. But there were a lot of games where Raya was turned certain defeats into draws, and I know that's no consolation, but the reason why you go for the goalkeeper is because he has been our most consistent performer. There's a lot of players who, in the sort of like the championship rounds, have come into the fore, like Declan Rice, but throughout the whole season he hasn't played his best football. Thomas Partey, has played is maybe could challenge Raya for probably being our player of the season, and Gabriel Magalhaes, and then you're struggling after that. Timber, yeah, that's 4, but all the rest of the players, and I say it respectfully, is factually they haven't been at their best. Even Odegaard, for instance, is sticks out like a sore thumb. Martinelli has
Odegaard, but he's been horrible, man.
Mistakes are creeping into Saliba's game. They're not catastrophic as such. Although you would say that Crystal Palace equalised at the Emirates was catastrophic.
Yeah. No, I'm leaning towards Raya, but I need Timber in the frame as well. I think Timber's been outstanding. When you think you come back from a horrific knee injury, the demands on him this season has been very high. And he's dealt with he has dealt with a lot of stuff that's gone his way. Remember, he's had Saka injured as well on his side, so he's had to kind of compensate a lot of the time as well. So for me, it'd be out of Timber and Raya. I would probably lean towards Timber, just literally on his consistency and the way he's defended. But I understand where Kenny's coming from, because Raya's up there definitely as my top 2, and I agree with Kenny. The rest of them have just not been good enough. I mean, Gabriel has shown, a very high standard. Saliba towards the end of the season now I'm worried. I think his body language has not been good. I think his head may have been turned. He looks like a player whose head's been turned. When he's got Kivior next to him, he should have been the main man. He should have stepped up, but he's made a few mistakes.
Kivior's held his hand, if I'm honest. Big up Saliba.
And Saliba's, unfortunately, his whole persona towards the end of the season has not been quite there as you'd want to see. And we'll just have to watch this space. But for me, Timber followed by Raya, I think would be my player of the season.
I hear that. Nats, thank you very much for the super chat. Big up DJ in the panel, enjoying this rational convo. At least someone's enjoying it. Is he, Nats? You might not even agree with anything us three are saying, but at least you're listening rather than doing the emotional thing. But you can't help it. You can't help it. So what, we've got Raya, we've got Gabriel. For me, it's I give it Gabriel Magalhaes.
Yeah.
I'd give it Timber second only because of the ACL. But then I feel like I'm underplaying Raya because, again, mistakes happen. People make mistakes, but it's how you react to mistakes. Maybe not so much now, but in the early days at the Emirates, people would make a mistake and heads would drop. And I just feel when certain players have made mistakes, they just keep it going. Like everyone remembers the United game, like Kenny said. He made a mistake. He did save us. He didn't waver in that regard. So I'd give it Magalhaes. Probably an easy one then. Like I'm pretty sure like everyone's probably going to say, I'm going to say mine's Miles Lewis-Skelly, but young player of the season.
Yeah, it's got to be Skelly for me. I mean, he came in by default. Again, the manager gets a lot of praise by a certain fan base that what he's done for Skelly. But Skelly wouldn't have got the opportunity if injuries hadn't arisen, and he got the opportunity and he took it. If he'd have known about Skelly, he wouldn't have wasted all this money on left backs. So there's another fact. In my eyes, he stumbled across Skelly by default, same as Ben White. Bought Ben White as a centre half, played him right back by default because of injury. Discovered that he was a right back, and this is what this manager's been doing half the time he's been at the club. So, but yeah, no, Skelly gets it for me, which is not a shame. But I think if Wanyeri had got a run in the team, I think if the manager had been brave enough to drop the captain, which he should have done, because the captain's been throwing stinkers left, right, and centre pretty much every game, and if an experienced manager like your Contes and people like that, he would have been gone. He'd have been dropped. Wanyeri would have got a chance to shine, but unfortunately, the manager's not brave enough to make those decisions. He's got plan A. Plan A is he plays his captain no matter what. So Wanyeri hasn't really bombed on and had the chances that he should have had. Let's hope when he goes out on loan, he gets that chance.
Hope he don't go on loan, man. There's football for him here, man. There's football for him, man.
I'm not under this manager. I don't think he'll get a run of the games. I don't think this manager likes
him. I want Arteta prove DJB wrong, man. Prove him wrong.
He
wants to be proven wrong.
I 100%. I want this manager to prove me wrong all through. But I think if this young man was going to get a chance under Arteta, I think we'd have seen it on more occasions than we have this season.
Fair. Kenny, I assume you're going with Miles Lewis-Skelly as well for a young player.
Oh, definitely. He's been a find this season. He's been absolutely fine, and he looks comfortable at this level. There's one of the things, and one thing about it is his mentality. He doesn't seem phased if he makes a mistake. Let's not get it wrong. You have to praise his mentality. Getting sent off unjustly against Wolves, came back, like it
killed by the media as well.
Yeah, and then West Ham game where he deserved to have got sent off, came back like it didn't happen. His mentality and his ability to overcome adversity at such a young age, you've got to respect him. And he can't form his performance against Man City. He can't form his performances in Europe, especially against Real Madrid home and away. It's one of those things where he can only get better. At the moment, things are going really well for him.
Honeymoon period.
He scored his first international goal on his debut. So at the moment, the only thing that can stop Miles Lewis-Skelly is injuries and himself. So he's got to keep on evolving as a footballer. Showing us each season there's depth to his game. Who knows? He may not be a left back. He may be a midfielder. He may play in the Saka position. You don't know. But one thing is, he's got one thing that Saka did, and what we admired about Saka is he evolved, and that's what we want for Miles to evolve. In terms of Wanyeri, all it's shown is just that he's still got a lot to learn. Yeah, they're virtually the same age, but in terms of development, it's night and day at the moment, and that's what happens in football,
tactically and physically. I'd say for Wanyeri, but you need a chance, like what DJB said.
Ethan has had his chances. Don't get me wrong. I have to be, as much as I've critiqued the manager, I have to be honest to my footballing beliefs, and my footballing beliefs does slightly back the manager. I saw enough against Brentford to understand that the manager was right to drop him. I saw enough in quite a few games where he struggled a bit off the ball. So because of my footballing beliefs and because of I back the manager. However, sometimes it can go a bit too far. Sometimes he can sort of, like I said, punish a player too much. Maybe there was something in training that he didn't like. But from my footballing beliefs, I believe that Miles Lewis-Skelly is ahead of him in terms of tactically and the mentality.
And consistent.
At the moment,
oh yeah,
Miles is in front of him. But who knows? If 2 or 3 years' time, we could be talking about Ethan in the same way we've been talking about Bukayo Saka. But one thing he needs to learn.
Good players, man.
Yeah, but one thing he needs to learn is level. It's not about your ability. all about your technique. It's about making the right decisions at the right time, and that's where Saka is at the moment. He makes decisions at the right time. A lot of people say that Cole Palmer's better than Saka, but Saka's no. But let me tell you something. I will pick Saka not because of his footballing, not because of like the tackers. I pick Saka because 9 out of 10 times he makes the right decision. He shoots at the right time. He makes crosses at the right time. He goes by his play at the right time. He makes the right decisions for the team.
Mm.
And that's why I pick him. And that's what Ethan needs to learn. Learn from Bukayo Saka and learn how to make the right decisions at the right time, and you'll be selected enough. If you improve your decision making on the ball and are conscious off the ball, it'll come for you. And you'll get more games like your mate Miles Lewis-Skelly.
Yeah,
I think you're right, man.
I mean, totally understand where Kenny's coming from, but this is where the manager comes in. It's the manager's job to coach that in Ethan. It's the manager's job to put an arm around his shoulder and say, look, this is what you got to do. And he may be doing it. He may be doing it, but the way he was kind of, how can I say, left out and everything else, questions have got to be asked. Is he the right manager for Ethan? Some managers ain't. Some managers can't get on even with top managers. They just don't see eye to eye. I mean, we've got another talent coming through in
Max Waterplayer.
Max. I mean, I've been watching this kid, quite a bit, and from what I've seen, he's like a young Liam Brady, and that's saying something.
That's a massive testament.
That is a massive. He's got everything. He's got 2 feet. He's got awareness. He sees danger. He goes past players. He's got good balance. He's got everything. And again, you want these youngsters to come through. They're assets to the football club, and they're exciting. But you've got to have a manager that's brave enough to guide them in the right direction. You've got to have the manager in to make decisions. You've got to have a manager that's brave enough to drop his starting 11 and certain players if they're not doing it. And throw these kids in there. And this manager don't do it. He sticks to the same format all the time, even when things are not going right. Some of his substitution he makes way too late. And this is what concerns me. That's the only thing that concerns me with these young players under this manager.
Could you then say, because I don't think you're wrong necessarily, DJB, but where you look at, obviously he's not at the club anymore, but a Smith Rowe who left, and Aaron Ramsdale, Martin Odegaard, maybe not so much this year, but a Martin Odegaard, the way Rice has changed into an 8, the Salibas, Gabriel Magalhaes, actually, ironically, Bukayo Saka and Lewis-Skelly. Does that give you some level of confidence then on the flip side with Arteta and Nwaneri? Yeah,
I mean, it does to a degree, but as you know, DG, because you've played football and stuff, sometimes when you've got this natural ability and you've got this natural talent, they don't need much coaching. You can't
just need to facilitate it.
You can't coach that. You just need to. You just need to let them go and play. You can't let players with that ability. For instance, you couldn't micromanage people like Eric Cantona back in the day and Paul Murphy, people like that. You'd kill them. You'd absolutely crucify their career. You've got to let them play. You've got to let them express themselves. And you've got to be able to change your tactics accordingly to accommodate that. Saka will always improve no matter what. Saka's got natural talent. He will shine under any manager. He will shine under any manager. I don't look so much towards them players. I look at your Martinellis. Now, Martinelli should be a world beater now. For how long he's been under this manager, and from when he burst on the scene, what we saw of him, this kid should be absolutely a world beater now. He should have everyone lining up to sign him, and he hasn't improved him. They're the players I see. Rice has been in and out this season. He's sort of found his own way, really. All right, he's assisted and he's scored more goals because he's had to. He's had to step up,
Put on big boy pants, man. Big up Rice.
Yeah, and all fairness to him, he's had to step up. But then that's his leading mentality. He stepped up at West Ham. You know, you got to remember when he carried that team, him and players like Bowen and stuff like that. He carried that team. And if you look at certain games this season, he's carried us in big games.
He's been a goal scoring threat for us 9 times out of 10 away from the magical free
exactly, kick. You know, and it shouldn't be. We should be in. See, for how long this manager's been in place, and for the resources he's had, we should not be scratching. We shouldn't be desperate times now. You know, we should now be signing one. We should be in a position where we're signing 1 or 2 players to make us better than what we've already got. Do you know what I mean? Not 5 or 6 players to improve the whole team. And this is where it's frustrating for me.
It's annoying, man. I don't think you're wrong. Who would you lot give most improved player to? I'll say Kivio. I think you stood up to maybe Marino based on him playing up front, but I give it Kivio for me.
Oh, most improved. Yeah, it is a tough one. I'll say Kivio's done a job. Yeah, I mean Kivio stepped up and he has improved. You know, there was a lot of eyes on him. He hasn't done a lot wrong, really, to be honest. He hasn't pulled up any trees, but he's done a steady job. He has improved.
Yeah,
definitely. Timber for me. I'll say Timber again. I think he's every game you can see that he's become a really good fullback, you know. So yeah, that's where I am with that.
Kenny?
In terms of like your players improved.
Yeah, most improved player. I think it says here, yeah.
Well, the most improved player for me in a team, obviously I concur with Kivio because Kivio really, but you know what? Why Kivio's playing looks very improved. He's playing in his position that he's played all his. He's playing in his right position, and that's why you got to shake his hand and think, you know what? People seem to forget he's played international matches, and he's played
Polish international.
So playing a big game, big games in the Premiership and playing big games in Europe, it's nothing to him. All he probably lacks is continuity and rhythm because he's not playing every game. So you saw
confidence that comes with that.
He will lead. He'll let the ball bounce. He will be like 6s or 7s. But what's happened is that he has improved. So in that respect, I'm always going to sort of like be a big fan of his. Another player that, to be honest, he's probably the only one who's really improved because I still think a lot of our players haven't done themselves any justice in terms of their performance on a regular basis. So he's probably the only one you could say, you know what, he's gone up a level. And after that, you're probably really struggling because Mikel Arteta is very strict, not only with his system, it's the personnel as well. Like only certain personnel can play that position. Like for instance, someone's mentioned Benjamin White. The thing is with Benjamin, has enough games, he's been injured quite a bit. And what's happened is that if you look at Timber's taken up right back's position to another level. He
just giving us more gears to his game, to that kind of role.
In essence, he's actually done what he was bought for. He was actually bought to play to deputise at right back and deputise at centre half. What he's done is he's gone beyond the pale. He's actually made the right back position his own, and I know that's going to probably accept a lot of Benjamin White fans. But one thing you can't take away from Timber: when Timber plays, Saliba doesn't have to go out and help Benjamin White. Saliba can easily deal with a player that's got pace and quick feet. Benjamin White is a strong runner, but one thing about Benjamin White is that if a player's got quick feet or pace, he struggles. We saw that in trouble when he started the game. With Timber, you don't really get that situation. In fact, Timber's very frustrating. You look at the first goal. Look at the goal that PSG scored. Now, don't get me wrong. You see Kvaratskhelia. He didn't try and go beyond Timber. He bypassed Timber and gave the ball straight to
And this is a post ACL season from Timber as well. Look how many wingers he's locked up.
Straight to Timber. Gave the ball straight to Dembele and bypass Timber. Now, normally, if that was Declan Rice, not Declan Rice, Benjamin White, he'd be running at him. That's not criticism of Benjamin White. It's just that certain players just can take a position to another. Kryptonite. You know what I mean? We have loads of arguments about Mick Arteta, for instance, believed that he may have rated Kieran Tierney, although I don't think he did. But when he saw Zinchenko playing at left back, he said, "Oh, this guy can take what I need to another level." And sometimes